The flash of light came without warning. One moment, Commander Lin Chen was enjoying the historic view of Earth from the diplomatic vessel's observation deck. The next, she was thrown against a bulkhead as alarms screamed throughout the ship. Through the viewport, she watched in horror as the other 5 Earth vessels erupted into silent explosions, debris scattering across the blackness of space like fallen stars. This was never a peace conference, she whispered, blood trickling down her temple. Just 3 days earlier, humanity had celebrated first contact. The massive ships of the Galactic Coalition had appeared in Earth's orbit, broadcasting messages of friendship and cooperation in perfect English, Mandarin, Russian, and a dozen other Earth languages. They invited Earth's leaders to an orbital meeting, a ceremonial welcome into the community of spacefaring civilizations. Commander Chen, decorated naval officer and astronaut, had been selected as part of Earth's security detail. A formality, they'd told her. The coalition has thousands of member species. This is routine for them. Now, as emergency lights bathed the corridor in red, Chen realized just how naive they had been. She pulled herself along the wall toward the bridge, fighting against the failing artificial gravity. The ship shuddered again as another impact struck the hull. When she reached the bridge, chaos reigned. The captain lay dead at his station. The diplomatic team huddled in terror as the communications officer frantically tried to establish contact with Earth. Through the main viewport, Chen saw them, sleek, predatory ships with configurations unlike the benevolent vessels that had first approached Earth. They moved with impossible precision, firing energy weapons that cut through Earth's best military satellites like paper. "They're jamming all transmissions," the communications officer shouted. "We can't warn Earth." Chen pushed herself toward the navigation console. "Is the emergency jump system operational?" The young lieutenant looked up with wide eyes. "Yes, but we've never tested it at this distance from Earth." "We have no choice," Chen replied, taking control of the system. "Everyone secure yourselves. This will be rough." As she activated the experimental drive, Earth's first attempt at faster-than-light travel, she caught something on the sensor display. The alien ships weren't just attacking, they were deploying something toward Earth's surface. Thousands of small objects, descending through the atmosphere. The ship lurched violently as the drive engaged. Stars streaked past the viewport, and Chen's last conscious thought was of the 7 billion people on Earth, completely unprepared for what was coming. She awoke to silence. The emergency lights still cast their red glow, but the violent shaking had stopped. The bridge crew was either unconscious or dead. Chen pulled herself to the viewport and gasped. They were in orbit around Mars. The experimental jump had worked, but barely. Earth was a distant blue dot. Using the last of the ship's power, Chen managed to access a storage compartment near the conference room. Inside were the confidential briefing materials on the coalition delegates that Earth intelligence had prepared. As she flipped through the files, a cold realization dawned. The coalition representatives had been scanning Earth intensively during their goodwill visit. Not just for resources or defenses, but for something specific, signs of quantum computational development. Earth's scientists had recently achieved breakthroughs in quantum computing that, according to the alien intelligence reports, most species required centuries more evolution to discover. These advancements, if applied to weapons and propulsion systems, could make Earth's military technology unpredictable, even dangerous, to the established galactic powers. Chen found a communication device among the diplomatic equipment and, with her technical background, managed to modify it to send a simple encoded message toward Earth, hoping some listening station would detect it. The message contained just 3 pieces of information: confirmation of hostile intent, the coalition's interest in Earth's quantum technology, and the coordinates where Chen's ship had jumped. 6 months passed. Chen and the 11 other survivors had established a fragile existence in an emergency shelter on Mars' surface, rationing their supplies and maintaining the damaged ship as best they could. They scanned for signals from Earth daily, but found only silence. Then, one day, as hope was fading, they detected a ship approaching Mars at impossible speed. It wasn't coalition technology. This was something new, bearing Earth markings but unlike any vessel Chen had ever seen. As it landed near their shelter, Chen led her fellow survivors outside, unsure whether to celebrate or prepare for a final stand. The ship's hatch opened, and a figure stepped out, General Kareem, who had been Chen's commanding officer on Earth. "Commander Chen," he said, his face showing both relief and grim determination. "Your warning saved us. We were able to prepare." He looked back at the ship behind him, its hull gleaming with an iridescent material that seemed to shift and flow. "And we've been busy." He gestured for Chen and the others to come aboard. Inside, Chen was stunned by what she saw. The technology was decades beyond anything Earth had possessed when she'd left. "After your message, we knew what they were looking for," Kareem explained as he led them through corridors humming with power. "Our quantum research was accelerated. Every nation contributed their brightest minds. While the coalition forces established their blockade of Earth, we were building these." He paused before a viewport that looked into a massive hangar bay. There, under construction, was a warship unlike anything Chen had ever imagined, larger than a naval destroyer but with the sleek lines of a fighter jet, bristling with weapons that pulsed with the same flowing energy as the hull material. "We call it a battlecruiser," Kareem said quietly. "The first of many. They combine our quantum advancements with principles we've reverse-engineered from debris of the coalition ships we've managed to destroy." Chen turned to him, shocked. "You've successfully engaged coalition forces?" Kareem's face hardened. "We had no choice. They expected us to surrender or fall quickly. They didn't understand what humans do when cornered." He touched a control panel, bringing up a holographic display of Earth's solar system. "Their blockade is thinning. They're calling for reinforcements. But this ship," he gestured around them, "is just a transport. The real surprise is nearly ready." The general's eyes reflected a mix of pride and grave concern. "Commander Chen, I need you to tell me everything you learned about them. Because in 30 days, we launch our first battlecruiser. And you're going to command it." Chen looked again at the warship under construction. She thought of Earth, fighting for its survival while she had been stranded on Mars. She thought of the coalition's treachery and the billions of lives at stake. "They thought they could judge us by their standards," she said quietly. "They thought our technological progress made us a threat to be eliminated." She turned back to Kareem with steel in her eyes. "Let's show them just how right they were to fear us." The underground facility stretched for miles beneath the New Zealand countryside, its existence known only to a select few hundred people on the entire planet. Commander Chen followed General Kareem through security checkpoints that grew increasingly sophisticated the deeper they went. "After your warning message reached us, we had only days before the coalition blockade was fully established," Kareem explained as they walked. "Every major government agreed to pool resources into what we call Project Sentinel." Chen nodded, still trying to process everything she'd learned since being rescued from Mars. Earth had suffered greatly in the initial attacks. Major cities had been hit by precision strikes, targeting military and governmental centers. Millions had died in those first days. But humanity had not surrendered. "How did you keep all this hidden from coalition surveillance?" Chen asked, gesturing to the vast complex around them. "The same quantum properties that caught their attention in the first place," Kareem said with a hint of satisfaction. "Our scientists were able to develop a shielding technology that creates a sort of blind spot in their scanning systems. They know something's here, but they can't tell what." They reached a massive set of doors with more guards than any previous checkpoint. After an iris scan, DNA verification, and voice recognition, the doors slowly opened to reveal a cavernous chamber filled with activity. Chen's breath caught in her throat. The chamber was dominated by a massive ship under construction, far larger than the prototype she'd seen on Mars. Workers swarmed over its surface like ants, while robotic arms moved massive components into place with precision. "The ESS Defiance," Kareem said with unmistakable pride. "Earth spaceship Defiance. Our first fully operational battlecruiser." The ship's hull gleamed with the same strange iridescent material Chen had seen on the transport vessel, but the effect was magnified across its much larger surface. It seemed to shift between solid and liquid states, sometimes appearing almost transparent before solidifying again. "Quantum state alloy," said a voice behind them. Chen turned to see a woman in her 60s, her silver hair cut short, wearing a simple lab coat with an ID badge that read Dr. Ayako Ishikawa. "Commander Chen, this is Dr. Ishikawa," Kareem introduced them. "She's the head of our research division and the mind behind much of what you see here." The quantum computing breakthroughs that attracted the coalition's attention were just the beginning, Dr. Ishikawa explained as she led them toward the ship. "When we understood what they were after, we focused all our efforts on applications for defense." They entered an elevator that carried them alongside the massive hull. Chen could now see weapons emplacements unlike any conventional Earth armaments, crystalline structures that pulsed with inner light rather than the solid barrels of traditional guns. "How does it fly?" Chen asked. "The coalition ships we encountered had some form of gravitic drive." "Better," Dr. Ishikawa said with a small smile. "We've developed what we call a phase shift drive. Instead of pushing against space like their technology, ours temporarily shifts the vessel partially out of normal spacetime, allowing for movement that isn't limited by conventional physics." The elevator stopped at a walkway that led to what appeared to be the command center of the ship. Inside, technicians were installing control systems and running diagnostics on glowing holographic displays. "The entire ship can operate with a crew of just 50, Kareem said, "though we'll have a full complement of 200 for the first mission, including scientific personnel and Marines." Chen walked to one of the viewport-like windows, though she realized they were actually high-resolution screens showing the outside of the facility. In the distance, she could see the green hills of New Zealand, peaceful and untouched by the war raging in space. "How bad is it up there?" she asked quietly. Kareem's expression grew somber. "The coalition controls all approaches to Earth. Their ships intercept anything trying to leave the atmosphere. We've had some success with smaller vessels using the quantum shielding, but nothing large enough to challenge their capital ships." "And the ground situation?" "Most nations maintain some form of governance, but it's focused on survival now. The coalition hasn't attempted a full-scale landing. They seem content to keep us bottled up while they mine the outer solar system. Jupiter's moons, Saturn's rings, the asteroid belt, they're stripping them all." Dr. Ishikawa joined them at the window. "That's the other piece of the puzzle we've put together. Earth isn't just a potential technological rival. Our solar system contains unusually high concentrations of certain elements the coalition needs for their own technology." "They could have proposed trade," Chen said bitterly. "We would have negotiated. According to intelligence we've gathered from captured coalition technology, their leadership council decided humanity was too unpredictable, too aggressive," Kareem replied. "They saw our rapid technological advancement and decided elimination was safer than partnership." Dr. Ishikawa's tablet chimed with an alert. She checked it and looked up with excitement in her eyes. "The final power core calibration is complete. We're ready for the test firing." They returned to the main observation deck overlooking the battlecruiser. Technicians cleared the area around the ship as warning klaxons sounded throughout the facility. "This will be the first full power-up of all systems simultaneously," Dr. Ishikawa explained as she joined a team at the control station. "If successful, the Defiance will be ready for launch within the week." "And if it's not successful?" Chen asked quietly. Kareem's expression was grim. "Then we pray the backup facility in Siberia is having better luck with their prototype." Dr. Ishikawa began the countdown, her voice steady despite the tension that filled the chamber. "Power core initialization in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, engage." At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the iridescent hull of the Defiance began to pulse with light that rippled from bow to stern. The crystalline weapon emplacements glowed blue, then white, as energy flowed through the ship's systems. "Power level stable at 30%, called out a technician. Advancing to 50%. The light intensified, casting strange shadows throughout the chamber. Chen noticed that where the light touched her hand, she could almost see through her skin to the bones beneath. That's the quantum field effect, Dr. Ishikawa explained, noticing her reaction. It's harmless, just a visual side effect of the technology. 70%, reported the technician. All systems nominal. Take it to 90, Dr. Ishikawa ordered. Hold there for system verification. As the power levels climbed, the air in the chamber seemed to thicken, becoming harder to breathe. Chen felt a strange pressure in her ears, like descending quickly in an aircraft. Phase shift field is stable, another technician called out. Weapons systems online and responding to simulations. Dr. Ishikawa looked to General Karim, who nodded. Take it to full power. 100%, now. The Defiance's hull now shimmered so intensely it was difficult to look at directly. The air around it seemed to bend and warp, and Chen could swear she saw ghostly afterimages of the ship slightly offset from its actual position. Full power achieved and holding, announced the lead technician with barely contained excitement. All systems functional. The Defiance is ready, General. A cheer erupted throughout the chamber. People hugged each other, some wiping away tears. 3 years of desperate work, of hoping against hope, had culminated in this moment. Karim turned to Chen, his face solemn, despite the celebration around them. Commander, as of this moment, you are officially appointed captain of the ESS Defiance. Your first mission is to break through the coalition blockade and demonstrate that Earth is not defeated, that we can fight back. Chen felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She thought of all that had been lost, her fellow diplomats on that first day, the millions killed in the initial attacks, the 3 years of suffering as Earth struggled under the blockade. When do we launch? She asked. Dawn, 2 days from now, Karim replied. We'll use the quantum shielding to mask your exit from the atmosphere, but once you're in space, you'll be on your own. Dr. Ishikawa stepped forward, handing Chen what looked like a small data crystal. This contains all our research, everything we've learned about the Coalition's technology and weaknesses. If the worst happens and Earth falls, the Defiance must survive to carry on the fight. Chen closed her hand around the crystal, feeling its slight warmth against her palm. Earth won't fall, she said firmly. Not while we can still fight. Later that night, as Chen reviewed the crew manifests and mission parameters in her temporary quarters, she stood at the window looking up at the stars. Somewhere up there, Coalition ships patrolled, confident in their dominance, unaware of what was coming. You thought we were too dangerous to join your galactic coalition, she whispered to the night sky. You were right to be afraid. But you made one mistake, you didn't finish us when you had the chance. In 2 days, humanity would take its first step into a larger conflict, armed with technology born of desperation and ingenuity. In 2 days, the coalition would learn why alien empires would come to fear Earth's battlecruisers. And Commander Lin Chen would lead the way. The launch countdown echoed through the Defiance's command deck. Commander Chen sat in the captain's chair, her eyes fixed on the main display showing the massive hangar doors above them slowly opening to reveal the pre-dawn sky. All systems green, reported Lieutenant Raj Patel from the operations console. Phase shift drive at standby. Quantum shielding at maximum. Chen glanced around at her bridge crew, 50 of Earth's finest, selected from military and civilian sectors alike. Some had been pilots, others scientists or engineers, before the invasion. Now they were all soldiers in humanity's desperate fight for survival. This is it, Chen said, her voice steady, despite the tension in her chest. 3 years of waiting, planning, and building has led to this moment. Whatever happens today, remember that 7 billion people are counting on us to show the coalition that humanity will not go quietly. She pressed the shipwide communications button. All hands, secure for launch. We're taking the fight to them. Chen nodded to her helmsman. Take us up, Lieutenant Howard. Nice and easy. Aye, Captain. Initiating vertical ascent. The Defiance rose silently from its underground berth, the quantum shielding bending light around its hull, to create a near-perfect invisibility effect. As they cleared the hangar doors, Chen caught a glimpse of the New Zealand countryside, peaceful in the early morning light, a stark contrast to the devastation many cities had suffered during the initial attacks. Passing 10,000 meters, Howard reported. No reaction from orbital patrols. Coalition sensor grid remains unaware of our position, added Lieutenant Kong from the tactical station. Quantum shielding is holding. The ship continued its ascent through the atmosphere, accelerating gradually to avoid creating a heat signature that might be detected. Chen watched the sky darken above them, stars becoming visible as they approached the edge of space. 30 seconds to minimum safe distance for phase shift initiation, Patel announced. Chen felt her heart rate increase. This was the most dangerous part of their ascent. The phase shift drive had never been tested in actual space conditions, only in the shielded environment of the facility. If it failed now, they would be exposed to the coalition blockade with only conventional engines to maneuver. Optimal distance reached, Howard called out. Ready for phase shift. Chen took a deep breath. Engage phase shift drive. Take us past the blockade line. The bridge lights dimmed momentarily as power was diverted to the drive system. A strange sensation washed over Chen, like being simultaneously stretched and compressed. The view screen showed the stars blurring slightly, their light taking on a bluish tinge. Phase shift active, Patel confirmed, his voice tight with concentration. Hull integrity holding. We're passing through normal space at approximately 40% materialization. On the tactical display, Chen could see the coalition blockade ships, a dozen vessels of various sizes, patrolling Earth's orbital perimeter. They continued their patterns, unaware of the Defiance passing through their formation like a ghost. Blockade cleared, Kong reported with barely contained excitement. We're through, Captain. A cheer went up across the bridge, quickly silenced as Chen raised her hand. Maintain discipline. We're not out of danger yet. Lieutenant Howard, set course for the L4 Lagrange point. We'll use the lunar mass to mask our signature when we drop out of phase shift. Course laid in, Captain. The journey to the Lagrange point took only minutes with the phase shift drive. As they approached, Chen ordered the drive powered down, and the Defiance rematerialized fully in normal space, the moon's bulk between them and Earth, hiding them from the coalition blockade. Phase shift complete. All systems nominal, Patel reported. That was smoother than any of our simulations, Captain. Don't celebrate yet, Chen cautioned. We've only accomplished the first step of our mission. She turned to her communications officer. Lieutenant Garcia, begin passive scans of coalition communications. Let's see what we're dealing with out here. While the communications team worked, Chen studied the tactical display. Beyond the Earth-Moon system, she could see markers representing detected coalition activity, mining operations in the asteroid belt, larger fleet concentrations near Mars and Jupiter, patrol routes connecting it all in a web that effectively imprisoned Earth. After several minutes, Garcia looked up from her station. Captain, I'm picking up significant communications traffic near Deimos. It appears to be a coalition forward operating base. Chen considered this information. Their mission parameters gave her significant discretion on how to announce humanity's return to space. A raid on a forward operating base would certainly send a message. Lieutenant Kong, tactical analysis of the Deimos base? Kong consulted his displays. Based on signal strength and pattern, I estimate a moderate presence, perhaps 3 to 5 ships, most likely support vessels and a single warship as protection. Any indication they've detected us? Negative, Captain. Their communication patterns show normal activity. Chen made her decision. Set course for Deimos, maximum phase shift. It's time to introduce ourselves. The journey to Mars took less than an hour with the phase shift drive, a trip that would have taken conventional spacecraft months. As they approached the red planet, Chen ordered full passive scans of the coalition base built into Deimos, one of Mars' small moons. I'm detecting 4 coalition vessels, Kong reported. 3 support ships and 1 medium cruiser. The base itself appears to be a resource processing facility. They're mining Martian resources and refining them on Deimos before transport. Life signs? Approximately 200 on the base, 40 on the cruiser, and maybe 20 each on the support vessels. Chen nodded, processing this information. Here's the plan. We'll drop out of phase shift behind Deimos' shadow, out of direct line of sight from the cruiser. We'll target the cruiser's propulsion and weapons systems only. I want to disable, not destroy. Once it's neutralized, we'll give the base a chance to surrender. And if they don't? Asked Commander Rivera, her executive officer. Then we demonstrate what the Defiance can do, Chen replied grimly. But these aren't the coalition leadership who ordered the attack on Earth. Many may be civilians or conscripts. We're not here for revenge, we're here to show that Earth can fight back and to gather intelligence. The bridge crew acknowledged her orders, and the Defiance slipped silently into position behind Deimos, its quantum shielding activated to maintain stealth. Once in optimal firing position, Chen gave the command they had all been waiting for. Disengage phase shift, maintain quantum shielding. Weapons, target the coalition cruiser's engine array and primary weapon emplacements. Precision strikes only. Targets locked, Kong confirmed. Chen took a deep breath. This would be the first actual combat use of Earth's new quantum weapons technology. Fire. The crystalline weapon emplacements on the Defiance's hull pulsed with brilliant blue-white energy. Instead of conventional projectiles or visible energy beams, they emitted concentrated bursts of quantum-shifted particles that phased partially in and out of normal space as they traveled, making them nearly impossible to detect until impact. On the view screen, Chen watched as the coalition cruiser suddenly lurched, its engines flaring erratically before going dark. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull where weapon emplacements had been. Direct hits on all targets, Kong reported, unable to keep the awe from his voice. Coalition cruiser has lost propulsion and primary weapons. Their shields are down. They're broadcasting distress signals, Garcia added. And, they're scanning us, trying to identify what hit them. Chen stood from her chair. Open a channel. Let's make sure they know exactly who we are. Garcia worked her console. Channel open, broadcasting on all coalition frequencies. Chen straightened her uniform and looked directly at the pickup. Attention coalition forces. This is Commander Lin Chen of the Earth spaceship Defiance. Your unprovoked attack on Earth 3 years ago was a grave miscalculation. As you can see, we are no longer confined to our planet. Your cruiser has been disabled, but your crew lives, a courtesy you did not extend to Earth during your initial attack. She paused, letting her words sink in. To the commander of the Deimos facility, you have 1 hour to evacuate your non-essential personnel to your remaining vessels. After that time, we will disable the base's critical systems. This resource extraction operation ends today. As she finished speaking, alarm klaxons suddenly blared across the bridge. Captain! Kong called out urgently. Multiple phase shift signatures detected approaching from Jupiter. Coalition reinforcements, they must have detected the cruiser's distress call. The tactical display updated, showing 5 incoming vessels, all larger than the Defiance. Time to intercept? Chen demanded. At their current speed, 17 minutes, Kong replied. Chen processed this new information quickly. They could easily destroy the disabled cruiser and the base before the reinforcements arrived, but that wasn't their mission. They had made their point, humanity could fight back. Send a tight beam transmission to Earth Command, she ordered. Mission partially accomplished, but we've stirred up the hornet's nest. Coalition reinforcements inbound. She turned to her helmsman. Lieutenant Howard, plot an evasive course away from Mars. We'll use the phase shift drive to outrun them. Course plotted, Captain. Before we go, Chen added, Lieutenant Kong, target the resource processing facility's primary power core. Use minimum yield, I want it disabled, not destroyed. Target locked. Fire. Another pulse from the Defiance's weapon struck the base, causing a cascade of power failures visible even from orbit. Secondary systems would keep the inhabitants alive, but the facility would no longer be able to process Martian resources for the coalition. Phase shift drive engaged, Howard reported. We're clear. As the Defiance accelerated away from Mars, Chen watched the tactical display showing the incoming coalition warships. They adjusted course, attempting to predict where the Defiance would reappear, but Earth's new drive technology didn't operate on principles they understood. We've lost them, Kong confirmed after several minutes. They're conducting search patterns near Mars, but we're well outside their sensor range now. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Set course for the rendezvous coordinates. It's time to report back to Earth Command. In the officers' mess later that evening, Chen found her executive officer staring out a viewport at the distant stars. Something on your mind, Commander Rivera? She asked. Rivera turned, her expression troubled. We took them completely by surprise today. That won't happen again. The next time we engage, they'll be ready for us. Chen nodded. True. But consider what we learned today. Their weapons couldn't track us effectively. Their shields were useless against our quantum-shifted weapons. And their fastest ships couldn't match our phase shift drive. She stepped closer to the viewport. We hurt them today, and we got away clean. Word of this will spread throughout their fleet. And what happens when they bring overwhelming numbers against us? The Defiance is powerful, but we're just one ship. Chen smiled. For now. But Earth is building more battlecruisers as we speak. The Defiance is just the beginning. She looked out at the stars, thinking of the disabled coalition cruiser and the message they had delivered today. The coalition thought they had contained us, that we would eventually surrender or die out. Today they learned differently. Today, the alien empires got their first taste of why they should fear Earth's battlecruisers. As if to punctuate her words, the Defiance's phase shift drive engaged again, wrapping the ship in its ghostly blue field as they continued their journey through the stars, humanity's first step in reclaiming its freedom and its future. The Grand Chamber fell silent as the holographic replay ended. Representatives from 12 coalition species sat around the curved table, their expressions, for those whose faces could be read by humans, ranging from shock to anger to what seemed like fear. This cannot be possible, said Overseer Thraxil, his gray-scaled skin flushing a deep purple with agitation. As the military commander for the coalition forces in Earth's sector, the failure at Deimos reflected directly on him. These humans were contained. Their technology was primitive. Evidently not as primitive as your intelligence suggested, replied Ambassador Alara. Unlike most of the others at the table, her species, the Ardani, resembled humans enough that Chen could read her satisfied expression clearly. The Ardani had opposed the attack on Earth from the beginning. Commander Chen stood at attention beside General Karim, trying to maintain her composure despite the alien gazes fixed upon them. 3 months had passed since the Defiance's first mission. In that time, Earth had launched 2 more battlecruisers, the Resolute and the Dauntless, and conducted a series of hit-and-run attacks on coalition outposts throughout the solar system. The coalition's response had been to call for this meeting on their massive headquarters station orbiting Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered moon. A temporary ceasefire had been agreed upon to allow the Earth representatives safe passage. The holographic evidence is clear, said Magistrate K. Elvar, the nominal leader of the Coalition Council. His species, the Vorn, were methane breathers who required environmental suits in oxygen atmospheres. His voice came through a translator, giving it a flat, mechanical quality. The human vessels possess technology that rivals or exceeds our own in several key areas. They cheated, Thraxil snapped. No species develops quantum phase shift capabilities at their level of advancement. They must have had outside help. General Karim stepped forward. I assure you, Overseer, every technology deployed on our battlecruisers was developed by human scientists, based on our own research into quantum physics. Your attack simply accelerated our timeline. This meeting was not called to assign blame, Kaelvar interjected. We must assess our current situation and determine a path forward. The human battlecruisers have disrupted coalition operations throughout their solar system. Our mining productivity has decreased by 63%. 3 military vessels have been disabled, and one destroyed when its reactor containment failed after an engagement. Chen winced internally at the mention of the destroyed vessel. That had not been their intention. The Dauntless had struck with more force than calculated during a skirmish near Titan. What exactly do the humans want? Asked a representative Chen didn't recognize, a floating, jellyfish-like being whose translator rendered its speech with musical overtones. All eyes turned to Kareem and Chen. We want what we have always wanted, Kareem said steadily. Recognition of Earth's sovereignty, withdrawal of coalition forces from our solar system, and reparations for the unprovoked attack that killed millions of our people. Thraxil made a dismissive gesture. Absurd. The resources of your system are too valuable to the coalition. And allowing a species with your unpredictable nature to develop unchecked poses an existential threat to galactic stability. Yet here we are, Ambassador Alara said pointedly, discussing terms with them because your military solution has failed. She turned to face Kael'var. Magistrate, the Ardani Confederation formally proposes an end to hostilities with Earth and the beginning of proper diplomatic relations. A murmur ran through the chamber. The Ardani were one of the founding species of the coalition, their support carrying significant weight. The Vaz Collective seconds this proposal, said another representative, a tall, thin being with silver skin that seemed to ripple like water. Our predictive models now suggest a protracted conflict with Earth will result in unacceptable losses with diminishing returns. Thraxil stood abruptly. This is preposterous. We cannot reward aggression by a primitive species. Their vessels must be surrendered and their quantum technology placed under coalition control. That will not happen, Overseer, Chen said, speaking for the first time. All eyes turned to her. Earth will not surrender the only means of defense we have against those who sought to subjugate us. If peace is to be achieved, it must be as equals. Thraxil's translator couldn't fully capture the contempt in his response. Equals? Your species has barely achieved spaceflight. You have no place at the coalition table. Yet here we are, Chen repeated Ambassador Alara's words deliberately. Invited to this station because your blockade could not contain us. Our battlecruisers may be few, but they have proven more than capable of defending Earth's interests. Perhaps, said Kael'var thoughtfully, there is another perspective to consider. The humans have demonstrated remarkable adaptability and technological innovation. These are qualities the coalition values, despite the circumstances. He activated a control on the table, bringing up a holographic display of the galaxy, with various colored regions indicating territorial boundaries. The coalition faces challenges on multiple fronts. The Hive Directive continues to expand in the Carina arm. The Void Hegemony disputes our mining rights in 16 star systems along the Perseus boundary. Kael'var's environmental suit turned slightly, its optical sensors focusing on Thraxil. Perhaps, Overseer, our resources would be better allocated to these known threats rather than continuing a costly conflict with a species that has proven more formidable than anticipated. Thraxil's scales darkened further, but he remained silent. I propose a compromise, Kael'var continued. The coalition will withdraw its military presence from the Earth system, maintaining only diplomatic and scientific outposts with the humans' consent. In exchange, Earth will agree to limited resource-sharing agreements for specific rare elements found in their outer system, with fair compensation. Ambassador Alara nodded. The Ardani support this proposal. As do the Vaz, added their representative. Several other species indicated their agreement, while Thraxil and 2 others registered opposition. Under coalition protocols, the majority had spoken. Very well, said Kael'var. General Kareem, Commander Chen, is this arrangement acceptable to Earth? Kareem and Chen exchanged glances. They had authority to negotiate, within parameters. Earth would consider such terms, Kareem responded carefully, provided that full sovereignty over our entire solar system is recognized, and coalition mining operations are conducted by joint teams with equal human participation. That can be arranged, Kael'var said. There is, however, one additional matter. The Coalition Council is concerned about the potential proliferation of human battlecruiser technology. We would request limits on the number of such vessels Earth may deploy outside your solar system. Chen had anticipated this. Earth will agree to numerical limitations on deployed battlecruisers, provided we maintain the right to construct them for our defense and to patrol our own system without restriction. After further negotiation of specific terms, a preliminary agreement was reached. As the meeting adjourned, Ambassador Alara approached Chen and Kareem privately. "You should know," she said in a low voice, "this agreement has fractured the coalition in ways you cannot see. Thraxil's faction believes we show weakness by treating with you. Others see opportunity in your species' innovative approach to quantum physics." "What opportunity?" Chen asked. Alara's expression grew serious. "The coalition is far larger than the representatives you've met today. Over 500 species, spread across the spiral arm of the galaxy. Not all live in harmony, despite the united front we present to non-member worlds." She glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. "There has been conflict brewing beneath the surface for centuries. Resource disputes. Ideological differences. Ancient grudges. Your battlecruisers, specifically their phase shift technology, have upset a delicate balance of power." "That was never our intention," Kareem said. "Earth only wants peace and self-determination." "Your intentions matter less than the reality you've created," Alara replied. "Several coalition species have already approached me unofficially, seeking potential alliances with Earth. They see your battlecruisers as potential leverage in their own disputes." "We're not interested in becoming mercenaries for alien conflicts," Chen said firmly. "Of course not," Alara agreed. "But you must understand the new position you occupy. As word of your technology spreads, more will come seeking either alliance or conflict. The agreement today is just the beginning." Later, aboard the Defiance for their return journey to Earth, Chen shared Alara's warning with her senior officers. "So we've jumped from one fight into the middle of a complex political situation," Commander Rivera summarized. "Wonderful. It was inevitable," said Dr. Ishikawa, who had joined the diplomatic mission to assess coalition technology firsthand. "Any significant technological advancement shifts the balance of power. Our battlecruisers represent exactly that kind of advancement." "The question is," Chen said, "what do we do with this information? Earth is still recovering from the initial attacks. We have 3 battlecruisers operational, with 3 more under construction. That's hardly enough to defend ourselves against a determined coalition faction, let alone engage in broader galactic politics." Kareem's expression was thoughtful. "Perhaps we don't need to match them ship for ship. Our advantage has always been innovation, not numbers." He activated the main display, showing the preliminary treaty text. "This agreement gives us breathing room. Time to rebuild, to strengthen our position. And to learn more about the wider galactic community we've suddenly found ourselves part of." Ambassador Alara mentioned others approaching her about alliances, Chen noted. "If there are coalition species sympathetic to Earth, or who have their own grievances with the current leadership, that could present opportunities." "Careful, Commander," Kareem cautioned. "We should be wary of being drawn into conflicts we don't fully understand." "Agreed," Chen replied. "But we should also be open to genuine partnerships. Earth can't stand alone forever." Dr. Ishikawa had been studying data from their scans of the coalition headquarters station. "There's something else to consider," she said. "The quantum technology we've developed appears to be unique in its application. The coalition has quantum computing, but they haven't applied it to propulsion or weapons systems the way we have." "Why not?" Rivera asked. "Different evolutionary paths lead to different approaches to science," Ishikawa explained. "The coalition species we've encountered think differently than humans. Their technologies reflect those differences." Chen considered this. "So our greatest asset isn't just the battlecruisers themselves, but our approach to innovation, our human perspective." "Precisely," Ishikawa nodded. "And that's something they can't simply copy or steal." As the Defiance approached Earth, Chen stood at the viewport, watching her home planet grow larger. The devastation from the initial attacks was still visible, dark patches where cities had once stood, the orbital debris from destroyed satellites and stations. But there were also signs of recovery, new structures, the glow of restored power grids, and the orbital construction facilities where more battlecruisers were taking shape. Earth was wounded but undefeated. And now, unexpectedly, it had taken its first steps onto a much larger stage. We went from fighting for survival to negotiating with a galactic coalition in just 3 months, Chen said quietly to Kareem, who had joined her at the viewport. And in the process, apparently sparked a political crisis among species that have been spacefaring for thousands of years, he added. Do you think we made the right decision, accepting their terms? Kareem was silent for a moment. I think we bought time and opportunity at a reasonable price. What we do with it now will determine whether it was the right decision. Chen nodded, her gaze still fixed on Earth. They fear our battlecruisers, not just for what they can do, but for what they represent. Human ingenuity under pressure. And that, Kareem said with a slight smile, may be the most powerful weapon we possess. As the Defiance began its descent toward Earth's atmosphere, Chen thought about Ambassador Alera's warning and the fractured coalition they were leaving behind. New allies, new enemies, and a galaxy far more complex than humanity had ever imagined. The battle for Earth's survival had been won. The struggle for its place among the stars was just beginning. The blue-white crystal sat in the center of the conference table, refracting light in patterns that seemed to defy the normal laws of physics. Scientists, military officers, and government officials leaned forward, studying it with expressions ranging from wonder to concern. Commander Chen stood beside Dr. Ishikawa as the scientist completed her presentation. We've named it Quantium, Dr. Ishikawa concluded. It's a crystalline lattice with quantum properties unlike anything in our periodic table. Analysis suggests it formed in our solar system during its creation, under conditions that apparently are quite rare elsewhere in the galaxy. And this is what the coalition was really after, President Singh said, her voice heavy with realization. As the elected leader of Earth's Unified Defense Council, she had ultimate authority over battlecruiser deployments and diplomatic relations with alien species. Yes, Madam President, Ishikawa confirmed. The mineral deposits on Mars, in the asteroid belt, and particularly in Saturn's rings, they all contain varying concentrations of quantium. Our test borings on Earth confirm it exists here too, primarily in deep oceanic trenches and certain volcanic formations. General Kareem gestured to the holographic display showing the solar system, with highlighted regions indicating quantium deposits. The coalition's mining operations weren't random. They were systematically extracting every bit of this mineral they could find. But why? Asked Admiral Zhou, the newly appointed commander of Earth's growing battlecruiser fleet. What makes it so valuable to them? Dr. Ishikawa manipulated the display, bringing up molecular models. Based on captured coalition technology and information shared by the Ardani, quantium is essential for the most advanced applications of faster-than-light travel, certain types of weapons systems, and long-range communication devices. Without it, these technologies simply don't function as effectively, or at all. Which explains their extreme response to discovering a technologically developing species sitting on a solar system rich in quantium, Chen said. They saw us as primitives occupying valuable real estate. President Singh turned her attention to the diplomatic reports. Ambassador Alera indicated that quantium scarcity has been a source of tension within the coalition for centuries. Several species have accused others of hoarding their supplies or claiming star systems specifically for their quantium content. And now Earth has unintentionally positioned itself at the center of this tension, Kareem observed. Chen studied the crystal. It looked innocuous, beautiful, even, but its existence had nearly led to humanity's extinction. And now, ironically, it was the key to their survival and growing power. How much do we have? She asked. Compared to coalition needs? Dr. Ishikawa's expression grew serious. Based on our analysis of their mining operations and consumption rates, our solar system contains approximately 18% of all known quantium deposits in this sector of the galaxy. Enough to significantly influence the balance of power, especially if we control access to it. A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications sank in. So we're sitting on a strategic resource that advanced civilizations desperately need.